Oh my gosh, it's really late. What is he doing? I keep telling him he has to stop working so late. Hey, what are you up to? Wait a minute. Are you playing mobile games?
No, I'm working.
You're playing them again?
Are you filming this?
Would you stop playing them sometimes?
No,
oh my
don't
God.
film this.
Jeez.
Don't film this. Oh my God.
I'm gonna film your addiction.
No,
You're addicted. You're addicted.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Game Theory, the show where once you pop, the fun don't stop. As loyal theorists may remember, a few months ago I dipped my toe into the mobile gaming waters with a strategy game named Total Conquest. Since then, things have changed. Little did I expect that those cartoonish Roman soldiers were peddling me a gateway drug that would send me into the crack den known as the Google Play Store. Action, strategy, puzzle, adventure, arcade, you name it, and it's there. My most recent discovery's been Dungeon Gems, a game that has you fighting through waves of enemies in a rock, paper, scissors style game with a team of elementally charged heroes that you find, train, and evolve. Kinda like Pokemon, actually. As you quest, you find different, stronger heroes to add to your collection and fill out your roster. Again, just like Pokemon. And battles have you matching tiles to summon stronger and stronger attacks, just like Pokemon. Well, I guess the games are slightly different. But here's the crazy thing. I can't stop. And it's just matching tiles. Seriously, as Dark Souls 2 and Assassin's Creed 4 sit on my shelf just gathering dust, waiting to be played, I'm turning more and more to swiping at tiles in an effort to take down a horde of water orcs with my wood elf. Which begs the question of why? Why are people everywhere foregoing epic quests like Skyrim to crush some candy? Why is Mario moldering on the sidelines while I'm running temples, clashing clans, and conquering totally? Earlier I used the metaphor of a gateway drug, but it's true! These games are literally addictive, and the developers know it. They're programming them in a way that hacks your brain, taking advantage of psychological quirks that you probably aren't aware exist, and yet have huge consequences on how you behave and what you play. So it's high time that you learn the secrets mobile developers already know and are exploiting inside that head of yours. To understand that, we need the straight dope on the dopamine pathway. The dopamine pathway is one that always seems to come up in those pesky high school biology classes, somewhere between the frog dissections and that damn Krebs cycle. Alpha, keto, gluta... whatever, I hate that damn thing. Anyway, dopamine is a specialized little molecule that's basically your body's happy hormone. If you happen to feel a sudden burst of happiness after beating a major boss, a wave of excitement when discovering a secret area, or even a little wide-eyed wonder at the new Jiggle Physics 2.0, all that is basically caused by your brain being tickled by thousands of tiny molecules of dopamine. Scientifically speaking, dopamine is known as a neurotransmitter, which means it travels between neurons in your brain. When you finally beat that speeder bike level in Battletoads, your brain jumps up to celebrate your victory, and neurons get flooded with ions, creating a tiny electric current. When that electrical potential hits the end of your neuron, the ions pour in and the dopamine gets shot out into the gap between your brain cells like a zillion little angry birds. Except they're happy, because it's dopamine. So they get launched across the synapse, but luckily they land in the loving arms of your brain's dopamine receptors, which just so happen to be conveniently located on the end of the brain cell next door. Like a good neighbor, dopaminergic receptors are there. So the dopamine bumps up against the new neuron, and as a result, you get a shot of happiness, excitement, or satisfaction. It's your brain giving you the equivalent of a big old pat on the back for being successful at life. So if dopamine makes us feel happy, why do we sometimes get bored with our favorite games? Well, one reason we lose that love and feeling about the games we play is desensitization. It's actually the dopamine signaling turning itself off. In any kind of addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or my addiction of choice, Diet Coke, the addict ends up having more and more as time goes by. The first few times you perform the addictive behavior, like drink a Diet Coke, you feel awesome. It's so crisp and cold and clean and has that nice burn in the back of your throat, and it's sweet and acidic all at the same time. Ugh. So good. So instead of waiting a week to have another Diet Coke, you remember how great it was and get one the next day. And you order a large. And you order it without ice because you know that their managers told them to fill that cup with as much ice as possible so that they save money on the soda syrup, you cheapskate. Wendy's, man! You have so much ice in your cups. Anyway, your brain still releases a bunch of dopamine the first few times you do that, but over time it starts to go, hey there, Matt Pat, aren't you drinking a lot of Diet Coke there, buddy? Maybe you ought to order a nice iced tea or something. Try a grape Fanta. Diet Dr. Pepper. And it tells you this by removing or down-regulating some of your dopamine receptors, literally closing them down for business. So with fewer dopamine receptors waiting to catch all your little dopamine molecules making that leap of faith across the synapse, the happiness signal gets weaker. Sure, eventually you'll get as much dopamine intake as before, but it takes a lot longer and you have to drink a lot more Diet Coke to do it. And the time after that, there are even fewer receptors, so the cycle gets worse and worse over time, until basically you have to be drinking Diet Coke around the clock in order to keep up the level of signaling you used to get from a couple of sips. Man, I'm thirsty. Here, hold on a second. Where's my wallet? Zah. Unlike Diet Coke though, which I can get whenever I want, mobile games have the ability to regulate how much you consume, thus preventing you from getting desensitized. And they do this in multiple ways. First, they get you to fly through the introductory levels. Right off the bat, you're receiving rewards, achievements, unlockables. In my first hour with Dungeon Gems, I powered my way through at least 10 dungeons, nabbed no less than 12 new heroes, and leveled up my main a whole bunch. I was unstoppable and it was amazing. I was swimming in dopamine. This got me invested in the game early, but as it got harder in upper levels, those bursts became more sporadic and unexpected. But rather than feeling discouraging, it made me more excited because each victory felt earned, and the reward was even more satisfying. This is known as a variable ratio schedule of reinforcement, and is the same method that's used in a slot machine. You never know for sure when you're going to win, but when you do, it's incredible, and the designers make sure that you win just often enough to keep you coming back for more. Secondly, and more importantly, Dungeon Gems, Candy Crush, Total Conquest, and more all have mechanics built into the game that limit the length of any one play session. You play a few too many matches or lose a few too many lives and the game forces you to wait a few hours before jumping in again. This means they're cutting you off at times when you're most invested. In other words, you're always left wanting more. By not letting you play, the game actually becomes more rewarding when you're allowed to return. This is all related to what's known as the hedonic treadmill. Basically, that as a person's situation changes, their expectations for happiness change with it. Let me illustrate through an example. Studies have shown that people who have won the lottery don't tend to be any happier than before they had all that money. Their desires tend to rise in tandem, resulting in no permanent gain in happiness. The same results come from people who've been paralyzed. They report a similar level of happiness both before and after the accident that paralyzed them. This is because they've gone back to their happiness equilibrium. Their situations have changed and are sustained at that changed level, and so their happiness has adjusted accordingly. But with mobile games and built-in breaks, you never stay in that elevated happiness state long enough to grow accustomed to it. You know the phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder? If you're in a long-distance relationship, that's the thing you hear all the time. But it's true. In this case, Dungeon Gems is my long-distance girlfriend. We hang out for a few days, have a great time, probably catch a movie, some dinner, but then she goes away for a while. I remember the good times we had, call her up on the phone, and eagerly look forward to the next time she's in town. So you're taking games that are perfectly programmed to capitalize on some core psychological triggers and adding to that unbelievably sticky formula by also making them free to play, putting them on a console that exists in your pocket, making them super quick and easy to get into and learn, and gosh darn it, giving them an incredibly fun and rewarding sound and graphical design. There's a reason people can't resist these things, and that's not including elements of the gambler's fallacy and rosy retrospection, but those subjects are for another day. In short, mobile games are the perfect storm of addictive gameplay, but there's one final angle to this whole dopamine story. Sure, these games are programmed in ways that keep the dopamine flowing at max volume by spacing out your rewards, but they're not the only ones to blame. You are. Studies have shown that about 10 to 15% of the population have addictive personalities, meaning they're more prone to get hooked on something, video games or otherwise. Within that 10 to 15% though, there's a higher than average portion of gamers. Take for instance one study that had researchers use giant magnets to study the brains of 14-year-old gamers. Half of the test group played video games for more than 9 hours per week. The other group played significantly less. The long-hour gamers had more gray matter in the ventral striatum, a part of the brain essential for dopamine rewards and addiction, seeming to suggest a higher likelihood of getting addicted. But it's also in our personalities. Tell me if any of the following phrases sound familiar. I only need to kill 10 more cactars before I max out my W summon materia. Thank goodness I finished getting all 2057 WoW achievements before the Warlords expansion. Sorry, Jenny, I can't make out with you tonight. I already got a date with Goat Simulator. Grinding, completionisting, and social isolation. Or, put in a broader context, engaging in repetitive tasks, going to ridiculous extremes, and, well, still social isolation. 3 telltale signs that you may have an addictive personality. And to gamers, that's par for the course. That's what we do for fun. So yes, mobile games may be programmed to be even more addictive than World of Warcraft or Heroine of the Storm, but gamers are also much more likely to get addicted to these things in the first place. But don't worry, it's not all bad. People prone to addiction also tend to be highly driven, motivated risk takers with higher IQ and strong leadership potential. So sip that sweet, sweet Diet Coke, dear theorists, because you may be an addict, but hey, there are a lot worse things out there to be addicted to than tile matching. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Candy Crush that subscribe button. It won't even cost you a microtransaction, I swear. No? Okay. Welcome back to the super amazing end card tournaments, where we haven't had one in a while. So let's make this one good by tackling one of the biggest battles in geekdom. Your choice, Star Wars or Star Trek. Is the Force with you, or are you planning on living long and prospering? Click on one to choose so that we can finally settle this internet old debate. Or maybe you're just a Whovian who doesn't care anything about this intergalactic debate. Bring that option up too, Ronnie. You feel awesome. So sweet and so cold, like the plums that were in the icebox and that you were probably saving for dinner. Thank you, William Carlos Williams. Here's a reference that no one will ever get.